Now I'm really paying attention. This isn't just like I ate too much pizza last night kind of thing.
Right.
This is serious stuff. So how do you even know if you have GER? Is it just like really bad heartburn, or are there other signs I should be looking for?
Well, persistent heartburn, especially happening 2 or more times a week, that's the hallmark of GERD.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of us have probably experienced at one point or another, and that is acid reflux.
Oh, yeah.
That, that burning feeling you get sometimes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking all about what acid reflux is, what causes it, and what we can do about it.
Looking forward to that.
Me too. But first, let's set the stage here.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Stomach acid is powerful stuff. I mean, it can actually dissolve some metals.
Yeah.
Luckily, our stomachs have a really strong protective lining.
Okay, so that's both cool and terrifying at the same time. But if stomach acid is supposed to be in there, why does it cause us so much pain when we experience acid reflux?
Well, think of your stomach like a mixing bowl.
Okay.
And it has this really tough, resilient lining.
Okay.
But at the exit, we have something called the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES for short.
Okay.
This acts like a one-way door.
Gotcha.
Food goes in, gets broken down by the acid, and then moves along the digestive tract. But if that LES, that little door, gets a little loose, well, let's just say some things can escape.
So it's not that our stomachs are making too much acid, it's that the containment system isn't working properly.
That's exactly right. And when that acid goes where it shouldn't be, that's what causes the pain.
Makes sense. So why does that escaped acid cause pain? Our stomachs can handle it, so why can't our esophagus?
Well, our esophagus isn't built to withstand that kind of intensity.
Oh.
In fact, even short exposures to stomach acid can damage the esophageal lining,
Wow.
leading to a lot of discomfort and inflammation.
That makes you think twice about that extra slice of pizza or something, right?
Right.
So I've always wondered why certain foods seem to trigger heartburn more than others. What's the deal with that?
Some foods can actually relax the LES,
Yeah.
making it easier for that acid to kind of sneak out.
Oh no.
Think greasy, fatty foods, spicy dishes, even chocolate.
Really? Chocolate?
Yeah, they can all temporarily loosen that muscular gatekeeper.
So basically all the good stuff. Figures. Okay, but I have a question. I know people who can handle spicy food like it's nothing. And I get heartburn from just like a single jalapeno.
Yeah.
Why do we react so differently to these kinds of foods?
That's a great question. And the answer is that everybody is different. Some people have naturally stronger LES muscles, while others might have a more sensitive esophagus.
Okay.
Genetics, lifestyle, even stress levels can play a role.
Wait, stress, really? So even if I'm eating all the right things, my anxiety can still be sabotaging my digestion?
That's right. When we're stressed, our bodies release hormones that can actually slow down digestion
Oh, wow.
and relax that LES muscle,
Oh, no.
making acid reflux more likely.
So it's almost like your body is too busy freaking out to worry about what's going on in your stomach.
Kind of. It's focused on that fight or flight response.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never realized how much of an impact stress has on the gut. And I guess things like being overweight or pregnant can also trigger acid reflux, right? Because it's all about the pressure on the stomach.
Exactly. Anything that increases pressure in the abdomen can push against the stomach and make it harder for the LES to do its job.
Okay.
And certain medications, like some pain relievers, can also relax the LES.
Huh. Wow, so there are a lot of factors at play here.
Yeah.
It's not just about, that spicy burrito I had for lunch or something.
Right.
Okay, so we've all probably had heartburn at some point in our lives.
Sure.
How do we know when it's just like a passing annoyance or if it's something more serious?
Yeah, that's a key distinction. Occasional heartburn is actually very common.
Okay.
And it's usually nothing to worry about. But if you're experiencing heartburn frequently, like 2 or more times a week,
Oh.
it could be a sign of a more chronic condition.
Okay.
It's called gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD for short.
GERD, so like I don't know what the word is, but like the more serious version of acid reflux?
Yeah, you could think about it like that.
Okay. That sounds kind of scary.
Well, GERD is essentially persistent acid reflux.
Oh.
And it can lead to more serious complications if it's left untreated.
Okay, so we've talked about what triggers acid reflux, but we haven't really talked about what happens when it becomes this chronic problem, this GERD.
Right. You have this constant irritation and damage happening in your esophagus. And remember how we talked about how potent stomach acid is? Imagine that splashing back up day after day, eroding the lining of your esophagus. This can cause ulcers, inflammation, and even scarring.
Okay, so real damage, like stuff that can't be reversed.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
One of the scarier complications of GERD is something called Barrett's esophagus.
Okay.
That's where the cells that line the esophagus actually begin to change, and this increases the risk of developing esophageal cancer.
Wow, okay. Now I'm really paying attention. This isn't just like I ate too much pizza last night kind of thing.
Right.
This is serious stuff. So how do you even know if you have GER? Is it just like really bad heartburn, or are there other signs I should be looking for?
Well, persistent heartburn, especially happening 2 or more times a week, that's the hallmark of GERD.
Okay.
But there's some other things to look out for. Chest pain, difficulty swallowing, a feeling of food being stuck in your throat.
It might sound strange, but sometimes that stomach acid can efflux all the way up into the throat, even the airways. This irritates the lungs, and that can trigger problems with your breathing.
Wow. Okay, so this is way more complex than I initially thought.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay, so let's say someone is experiencing these symptoms. They think, uh-oh, maybe I have GERD. What's the next step? What should they do?
Well, the most important thing is to see a doctor.
Okay.
Don't self-diagnose. A doctor can properly evaluate your symptoms and rule out any other conditions,
Right.
and then recommend the best course of action.
Okay, so rule number 1, talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
But what happens after you get a diagnosis? What are the treatment options for GERD?
Treatment usually involves a multi-pronged approach. Lifestyle changes are often the first line of defense.
Okay, so all that stuff we talked about earlier, like watching what you eat, managing stress, it all applies here.
Yeah.
But even more so, I'm guessing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Those changes can make a huge difference in managing GERD symptoms.
Okay.
And then there's medication. Antacids can provide some temporary relief,
Yeah.
but for GERD, stronger medications are usually necessary.
So we're talking about not just neutralizing the acid that's already there, but actually reducing how much acid your stomach is making in the first place.
Exactly. There are medications like H2 blockers and proton pump inhibitors, PPIs. They work by blocking different stages of acid production in the stomach.
Okay. What about those more serious cases, like we talked about earlier, where the esophagus is already damaged, maybe there's even a risk of developing cancer? Are medications enough, or are there other options?
In some cases, surgery might be recommended.
Wow. Okay.
The most common procedure is called fundoplication.
Okay.
And in this procedure, the top part of the stomach is wrapped around the LES to strengthen it and prevent reflux.
Tell me more about that.
It's an area where we're learning more all the time.
Okay.
It's becoming clearer that what happens in the gut is all interconnected. Acid reflux might not be an isolated issue. It might be a symptom of or contribute to other digestive conditions,
Oh, wow.
like IBS and gastritis.
Right. We talked about those a little bit before. So the chronic inflammation from acid reflux could trigger or worsen inflammation in other parts of the digestive system.
That's one theory.
Yeah.
And then there's also the possibility that these conditions share some common underlying causes.
Okay.
For example, a weakened LES, which can lead to acid reflux, that can also lead to delayed stomach emptying.
Okay.
And this can cause food to back up, putting pressure on the stomach and potentially trigger IBS symptoms.
So it's not necessarily a direct cause and effect relationship, but more of a complex web of interconnected factors.
Right, and we can't forget about the role of the gut microbiome.
Ah, yes. The gut microbiome. Everyone's talking about that these days. What's its connection to acid reflux and these other digestive issues?
Well, having an imbalance in gut bacteria, or dysbiosis as it's called, has been linked to a whole bunch of digestive disorders,
Okay.
including acid reflux, IBS, and gastritis. It's
Yeah.
like a delicate ecosystem. When it's out of whack, everything suffers.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So where do we even begin to address this whole web of digestive problems? It can feel kind of overwhelming. But now I'm ready for some good news. Let's talk about what we can actually do to feel better.
All right, let's get into it. So as we've discussed, diet plays a major role.
Okay, so let's talk food. I'm assuming this is where I have to say goodbye to pizza and chocolate forever.
Well, not necessarily. It's not about giving up all the good stuff. It's more about making smart choices.
Okay, so less of a food funeral and more like a strategic adjustment.
Exactly. The first step is figuring out what your personal trigger foods are, what really sets off your heartburn.
Okay, so I need to do some investigating. Become a food detective.
Exactly. Keep a food diary, track your symptoms, and you'll start to see some patterns.
Got it. But what if my favorite foods are the culprits? Do I really have to give them up completely?
Not always. You can experiment with portion sizes. Maybe you can have a little bit of your favorite food without triggering a full-blown heartburn episode. It's about finding that balance.
Okay, so moderation is key. We've covered diet, but what about other things we can do? Like managing stress. We talked about how stress can affect the gut.
Absolutely. Finding healthy ways to manage stress is crucial for gut health. Whether it's yoga, meditation, going for a walk in nature, or even just taking a few deep breaths, figure out what helps you relax.
I hold a lot of tension in my stomach, so that makes sense. Stress management is definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah.
And what about exercise? Does that play a role in gut health?
Oh, definitely. Regular exercise is great for everything, including your gut. It aids digestion, improves gut motility, and can even help manage stress.
Okay, so get moving, but maybe not right after a meal.
Exactly. We've covered diet, stress, exercise. And now let's circle back to the gut microbiome. Remember, it's that whole world of microorganisms living in our gut.
Right, it's like our own little inner ecosystem. And you mentioned that an imbalance in gut bacteria can lead to all kinds of problems. So how do we keep our microbiome happy?
Diet is key here. You want to eat a variety of fiber-rich foods. Things like fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains.
All the good stuff.
Exactly. These foods act like prebiotics, which basically means they feed the good bacteria in your gut.
So it's like setting out a buffet for our good gut bacteria. I can definitely get behind that. What about probiotics? Do those help?
Probiotics can be helpful, especially after taking antibiotics or if you're having digestive issues. But focusing on eating a balanced diet with plenty of prebiotic fiber is the best foundation for a healthy gut microbiome.
Okay, so feed the good bacteria that are already there rather than just adding more.
Exactly. And remember, everyone's body is different, so what works for one person might not work for another. Pay attention to your body and see what feels best for you.
This is all such great advice. I feel much more empowered now that we've talked about this. Any final words of wisdom?
Just remember, if you're having persistent digestive issues, don't hesitate to talk to a doctor.